CVA stands for Cerebral Vascular Accident, also known as a stroke. So that means that there is a prolonged interruption or stop of blood flow in the cerebral arteries that prevents blood from reaching the brain to deliver oxygen and vital nutrients. There are two types of strokes. The first one is ischemic, and it's the main one that we think about when someone has a stroke. Ischemic means that there is brain death caused from a clot. So the first kind of clot we have is a thrombotic clot, and it is a clot that forms on the plaque in the cerebral artery itself. Okay, it already is forming in that place. Okay, the next one is an embolic, and this one's the more common one. The embolic is a traveling blood clot. It is an embolism that has broken off from maybe that carotid artery that has plaque buildup, and it breaks off, and then it travels to the cerebral artery and then causes a stroke. However, this one, it can be reversed within 4.5 hours with the TPA medication. Now you'll see a lot of literature say 3 hours, so I think NCLEX will probably stick somewhere between 3 and 4.5 hours, but no shorter than 3 hours and probably no higher than 5, because the literature and the research changes so frequently with this disease. So just keep in mind 3 to 4.5 hours will they give the TPA clot busting medication. The next kind of stroke is a hemorrhagic stroke. Hemorrhagic means bleeding, so a bleeding stroke. So basically the vessel in the brain bleeds out, it busts, and that is a cerebral blood vessel that ruptures. So what is usually happened is it can be from an aneurysm that burst, or maybe there is head trauma that causes a lot of massive bleeding in the brain. So either way, it causes ischemia and prolonged stop of blood flow in the brain, which leads to brain death. The patient will have an MRI, CT scan, or CTA, or some combination of all. CTA is the angiography, where they inject dye to look at the vessels of the cerebral area. They also may have a lumbar puncture. The lumbar puncture will reveal blood in the CSF fluid if it is a hemorrhagic stroke. Let's go over diagnostic tests and the signs and symptoms of a stroke using the FAST acronym. F stands for face, and what we want to look at is facial expression. Ask the patient, can you smile for me? So if they smile, one side of their face will be droopy and not participating in the facial expressions. The next one is arm. They can have one-sided arm or arm and a leg paralysis on just one side. It can be paralysis or just numbness and tingling, paresthesia. Paresthesia is another word for numbness and tingling. So they can have just that, or it can be just arm and leg, or one half of their body. When we do our neuro checks, we can test for that when we say, do you feel this? Do you feel this? Do you feel that? Do you feel that? When we're going from one side to the next, and then that will let you know if they have feeling there or not. Speech is the next one. They can have dysphagia with an S. Remember that dysphagia with an S means speaking, and with a G means swallowing. So speech, dysphagia, difficulty swallowing. They'll also maybe have some confusion. They don't really know where they're at. Maybe they're disoriented. They may also have a severe headache. The last one is T for time. Time is on the FAST acronym because we want to know the onset of symptoms. We got to know that so they can be transferred to the emergency room physician so he can render a treatment plan that is best for the patient. They don't want to give that TPA medication if it's been too long, because at that point it won't be any help to the patient because the brain damage and ischemia has already happened. There's a few more symptoms we need to go over. Remember when I said if you have a right brain stroke, your left side of your body is affected. Hemiplegia. And if you have a left brain stroke, your right side of your body has hemiplegia. Okay, let's look at the signs and symptoms. So hemiplegia means one side of the body is paralyzed. Paraplegia means one half of up or down side of the body is paralyzed. Hemiplegia means this way, okay? So hemiplegia, the right side of the body is affected. So that means you have a left side brain stroke. So with right-sided hemiplegia, you're going to have the 3 A's. Aphasia, can't speak. Agnosia, can't recognize objects and can't recognize smells. And the other one is agraphia, which means you can't write. You've lost your ability to communicate through language. Now let's look at the hemiplegia on the left side. So if your patient exhibits hemiplegia on the left side, they had a right brain stroke, and they will have more vision changes in this one, spatial and perceptual defects. So they can't really judge how close or far away an object is. They have poor judgment skills, loss of depth perception, so they don't know how deep or how they can't see much peripheral vision either. Then hemaniopsia is half of the vision field is lost, so with both eyes. So you have half and half, and then so they can't see here this way, but they can see the other way with the other side of their eyes. So that is hemaniopsia, and here's a picture of what it kind of looks like. So half of the vision field is lost for sight. Here's a look at the treatment options for the stroke patient. We're going to be talking about ischemic first. So with ischemic stroke, we can give TPA, which is a clot busting medication, within 4.5 hours of the onset of symptoms. If the stroke is a hemorrhagic stroke, they cannot have this medication because it will make their stroke worse. Because the hemorrhagic stroke is bleeding, and we don't want to give them anything that will increase bleeding. So no TPA for that, and because TPA is for an actual clot. And a hemorrhagic stroke is not necessarily from a clot, it's from a busted vessel. We'll give ischemic strokes 81 milligrams of aspirin, and in fact in first aid, they teach you that if the first signs of a stroke, to give them a chewable aspirin. That aspirin will help disintegrate clots, as that's the first thing we can give them to help disintegrate those clots as fast as possible. They can get stents put in. Hypothermia, therapeutic hypothermia, cooling the body temperature, helps reduce the need for the body's consumption of nutrients and helps protect and heal the brain. So we can do some therapeutic hypothermia, and also hypothermia will help reduce intracranial pressure. It's one of those methods we do to decrease ICP when their ICP is rising. No TPA for hemorrhagic strokes. They can also get physical therapy, occupational therapy, and social services. Physical therapy is going to help them with walking and assess their need for assistive devices. Speech therapy or with occupational therapy will help them learn how to do their ADLs on their own. And also within these services is speech therapy to help them speak again. For nursing care, we are going to monitor their blood pressure, temperature, and neurochecks. We're watching their blood pressure because we want to make sure that they have a normal blood pressure, that their blood pressure is not too high, because sometimes a hemorrhagic stroke can be caused from super high blood pressure. We want to make sure the blood pressure is normal. We're going to also watch out for hypovolemic shock or any sort of shock symptoms that the patient may develop as a result of their stroke. Their temperature, we want to keep their temperature normal or right below normal. We don't want any high temperatures. High temperature rises the intracranial pressure, and we don't want that. Neural checks will help us determine if the patient is getting better or getting worse. We want to maintain oxygen to make their oxygen saturations at least 92%. Head of the bed will be up at least 30 degrees. And we want to maintain to help decrease their intracranial pressure. It's also to help prevent aspiration. And if they're can't swallow, They're going to have a lot of saliva. We need to make sure we're doing mouth care and suctioning their mouth with any secretions, keeping their airway clear and open. Seizure precautions. Swallowing evaluation for thickened liquids. So if your patient is drinking and they keep coughing and choking while they're drinking liquids or eating soft foods, we need to bring that to the physician's attention so that we can get some thickened liquids for them. Prevent DVTs and pneumonia. So they will become sedentary for a while. We want to prevent DVTs. We want to do those range of motion exercises. We want to assess for DVTs, make sure they're hydrated and that we are checking on them. They're deep breathing and coughing and turning. Decrease the edema in the affected arm. So a lot of times you'll see that the patient who's had a stroke will have that weakness or paralysis in one arm and they can't move their arm well, so they're not getting circulation in the arm very well and it accumulates extra fluid. We're not allowed to take blood pressures in the affected arm, so only use the other arm for IVs or blood pressure taking. So the affected arm, the arm that's paralyzed, we will not do anything with that arm. You can get the sleeves, which is like a compression stocking that goes over the arm and it helps return some of that lymph fluid and vascular fluid up back into the circulatory system. Maintain their skin integrity because they will be a bedbound patient, or maybe they have a paralysis on sides of them so they can't feel those sides that are getting compressed. So we want to make sure we do all those things that prevent skin bed sores or pressure ulcers from happening. Also keep your skin clean and dry. Fall risk. They are high fall risk, especially in the initial period. We want to make sure they're educated on how to make their home a safe environment, and we want to prevent falls. And one thing you need to think about and remember is that when we're assisting a hemiplegic patient, a patient that's paralyzed on half their body, then we will put the wheelchair on the side of the bed that their good side is. So they get out of the functioning side. Can you imagine trying to get out of the bed on a side that's paralyzed? You kind of have to lean over your paralyzed side to get out. We don't want that to happen. We want them to put their good leg over the side of the bed and stand on it. We will assist with the paralyzed side. That way they can get up, then they turn and sit with our assistance. So we want to get out of the bed on the functioning side. Wheelchair goes on the functioning side of the bed.